Today, I'm going to give you the top 3 most underreported reasons you might want to think twice about moving to Edmonton in 2024. I'll be sharing certain things that past clients have said they wish they knew before they moved here, and make sure you stick around right to the end because the last one is the most important. Hey, my name's Leanna Martens, and I'm an Edmonton real estate agent. And if after this video you still might be considering a move or relocation to Edmonton, Alberta, reach out to me and my team for a complimentary discovery call because we take the stress out and we make it easy. Hey, before we dig in, let's start with a little bit about what it's like to actually live in the city of Edmonton. So Edmonton has 1.56 million people. So it is large enough to have more than anything that you possibly want or need in terms of amenities and sports and entertainment and concerts, live events, festivals, outdoor concerts. That all starts in June and goes all the way to September. And what Edmontonians spend their time doing, of course, is they spend time with friends, family, barbecuing, community events, all the festivals they go to. We've got our ski hills here in the wintertime. There is cross-country trails that you can go on. There's the River Valley all year long. There's more than enough to do. So it's a fantastic city all year round, honestly, in terms of activities. As you can see, obviously, there's a lot of great things that you might love. But we are here to talk about the 3 reasons you might want to avoid moving to Edmonton at all costs in 2024. Number 1, West Edmonton Mall. Now, for most people, and certainly the city that is promoting Edmonton, they're going to say that West Edmonton Mall is this great attraction. Well, it's a bunch of ways to spend your money is really all it is. It is a bunch of ways to spend money you don't need to. And there's never a problem because there's always somebody that's in your pocket no matter where you go. So why go somewhere where you feel like everywhere you go is designed to part you from your dollars? So West Edmonton Mall, it's big. There's lots of fun stuff, right? As a tourist, when you first come here, cool, right? With the family, because there is something that you can do in terms of entertainment. There's the water park. There's all that kind of jazz. But I promise you, after you're here for a period of time, it will lose its luster. And the 3 worst things about West Edmonton Mall, number 1 is the parking, number 2 is the crowds, and number 3 is theft in vehicles while you're parked. So you really got to make sure that your vehicle is secure because that is like prime A targets for theft. Number 2 reason that you might want to reconsider a move to Edmonton is the lack of cultural diversity in certain communities. So I am a mixed race, Jamaican, Barbadian or Bayesian, and German. And what I have experienced and noticed is that just like all cities, there are certain communities that are much more white dominant than others. So they're going to have more representation or less representation. I live in the west side of Edmonton in a very white dominant community called Laurier. It's a lovely community. The truth is I absolutely love it and I love the people here. However, I really wish there was more people with brown skin. I would love to see more of myself. The overall racial demographics in Edmonton have immigrants first time being about 23% of the Edmonton population and people speaking a second language being 26%. That's going to sound like it's still pretty heavily dominated by white Caucasian majority. And it is, however, it's really important to understand that just like in all major urban centers, that there's certain areas, there's certain communities that are going to be much more culturally diverse and concentrated with certain ethnic backgrounds. The whitest communities in Edmonton tend to be the highest socioeconomic areas. So they will have the highest average income as well as highest average education. You tend to find a lot of graduate degrees and professionals in these communities, which is one of the areas that I live in. So you'll find medical specialists, business owners, dentists, doctors, lawyers, judges, and more of that like. The diversity you tend to see are Caucasian as a majority, and then the smaller percentages of Chinese, Japanese, Korean, possibly the odd Black person of Jamaican or African descent. The wealthiest communities correlate to these types of racial demographics. So you end up with a high dominance of Caucasian, minority of Chinese descendants, and in some communities like Windsor Park, for example, there is upwards of 25% Chinese, but that is an exception. So these communities have an average price point of about $940,000 all the way up to $4 million. And they are communities like Windsor Park, Crestwood, Donsdale Heights, Belgravia, Grandview, Westbrook Estates, Olisque, Quesnel Heights, Glenora, and Cameron Heights. Of course, as I said, you can find different racial demographics depending on what area of the city you live in, as people like to be close to others that have similar values and lifestyles. So why don't we go into another area that is not going to be Caucasian dominant? It's actually going to be East Indian. So if you head into Southeast Edmonton into Mill Woods, it has a very high density of East Indians or Southeast Asians. In Laurel, for example, it actually makes up 50% of that demographic. Communities like Silverberry, Bissett, Delhi Grove, Pollard Meadows, Sakaw, Manisa, the average price point of these is around $454,000. Now, if we go into communities in Northeast Edmonton, it has a much higher concentration of German and European residents by about 25%. The average property value in communities like Kensington, Dunluce, Baranow, Eau Claire, Glengarry, Delwood are around $360,000. Now, Rio Terrace is an outlier. Rio Terrace is actually in West Edmonton, just south of where I live in Laurier. And the average price point of solds there is about $610,000. And the reason that is because it actually has a German bilingual school, and it's the only program in the city. There is a higher concentration of African Somalis in central downtown Edmonton. So places like Queen Mary, McDougall, Macaulay, north central like Kildare, Dickensfield, Castle Downs, northeast like Clairview, Belvedere, and then in the southeast like Mill Woods. The average property values in these communities range anywhere from $225,000 to $325,000. Hey, if you're getting value from this video, can you do me a huge favor and comment and subscribe right now? That's going to make sure other people can find me just like you. If you find that you might be looking for a very specific type of community with a culture that you are most comfortable in, go below because I have all of the statistics, articles that I've pulled from, community stats that might support you finding what it is that you are looking for. I find the best mix of heritage, cultural diversity, and safety is in the newer communities that are being built outside of the Anthony Henday. They're much more racialized, and these communities have brown faces by almost 50%. You can walk out and you're gonna see mixes of East Indian, you're gonna see African, you're gonna see Jamaican, Korean, Filipino. These are newer communities, they've got new schools, they've got families, and they have substantial cultural diversity. So if you're coming from a larger population and you identify as a minority, these are areas that you're gonna feel very comfortable in. And the average price point of sold in these communities is anywhere from $450 to $650. So it's basically, you know, your middle class family, educated and working hard. And the third reason you might want to reconsider moving to Edmonton in 2024 is the cost of groceries. Now, food costs since COVID have gone up all over the world with inflation, but in Alberta, it's gone up by as much as 8% or more. Some of the reasons for that are the wars in Ukraine and Middle East, the effects of climate change, and the federal carbon tax, which has increased the cost of shipping. If you're buying specialty items like organic, keto, gluten-free, whole foods type, the cost has gone up much more than 8%. Here's a few ways to mitigate those costs for you and your family. So, number one, fresh produce with H&W. H&W, hands down, is the best price for fruits, veggies, and produce. They have a very small selection of organic if that matters to you, but if price is really the most motivating factor, I would absolutely go check them out. Now, I would say the best price for overall groceries is Walmart. And Walmart has a surprisingly decent selection of organic if that matters. On a standard jar of pasta sauce or bag of crackers like Goldfish, I found an average of 20% or more savings from your big box grocery stores like Safeway, Save-On Foods. Save-On is the most expensive. So those are my 2 tips to be able to mitigate the cost of groceries in Edmonton. Now, we're done. Those are the 3 reasons that you might want to reconsider moving to Edmonton. If after all of that, you're still considering a relocation, reach out to me and my team for a complimentary discovery call because we take the stress out and we make it easy. Make sure you reach out. Our info is below. If you have any other questions, any other comments, you got to put them below, then I can answer them. And of course, I can record content that you guys care about because that's really the only reason I'm here. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope it's been an awesome use of your time, and I will see you in the next video.